I'm Eric Bowling. Welcome to Follow the Money. Gold hits another record high, zipping right past $1,400 an ounce, while oil hits a two-year high on its way to get this $100 a barrel. All this as the country wallows in recession and the world's debt continues to pile high up to the sky. The amount of money advanced nations, governments will need to borrow in 2011 is a staggering $10.2 trillion with a T, trillion dollars. These are not numbers seen. These are numbers not seen since the aftermath of World War II. These are the kinds of things that lead to tension, violence, strikes and rioting in the streets. The size of the world's debt is a sign of growing sickness, says our very good friend, Judge Andrew Napolitano. Judge, the debt keeps rising. We found out today that we may need to borrow as a globe, as a world, $10.2 trillion more dollars.
Right. The reason I use the word sickness is because it shows a regular, consistent, systematic willingness to mortgage the future in order to spend money now. These people are not stupid. When I say these people who run the governments of Western worlds, they know that they can borrow from where the money is and spend the money now, and they won't worry about paying it back. When it comes time to pay it back, they'll print money. Guess what? The time to pay it back is now. And there's so much debt from the other countries that have been lending us money. Soon they're going to stop lending us money. And then what do we do?
I know. What do we do, Judge?
Well, I know what they will do. They will simply print money to pay their debts. They, meaning the industrialized nations. Not all nations can do it. The Bank of England can do it. The Central European Bank can do it. The Federal Reserve can do it. It's immoral. It ought to be illegal. It's unconstitutional. It devalues the money that's in everybody's pocket.
But it's legal. But it's legal.
It is lawful in the United States today. It ought to be illegal because it's theft. If you have $100 in your pocket. Well, you probably have a couple thousand, but if you had $100 in your pocket and the Fed goes out and floods the market with cash, soon that $100 has lesser buying power. It will still say $100 on the bills, but because there's more money chasing the same amount of goods, the prices of everything will go up. That's called theft.
And devaluation.
And the Constitution prohibits the government from stealing from you. You wouldn't know it the way they steal, but it does prohibit the government from stealing.
So what happens, Judge? They go out and they print the money because they can. And they spend it, and they print it, and they spend it, and the debt just keeps on rising and rising. Eventually hits what's called the debt ceiling, right?
And then they just change the debt ceiling. They go back to the Congress, and the Congress authorizes more borrowing or more printing. Same thing in this case. And the debt ceiling goes up. You see, their theory, their idea is, and these are Republicans and Democrats, it won't be my watch when the house comes tumbling down. As long as I can pay the bills and keep the masses at bay now, it doesn't matter what the interest payments will be in the future after I'm retired. That's the attitude of people on both sides of the aisle in the government today.
Judge, three little balls flying around up here. We have the Fed who prints, right? We have the government who spends,
right?
But then you have Congress who decides the debt ceiling or okays a higher debt ceiling, right?
Well, the Congress uses the debt ceiling as a toy because it will just raise the debt ceiling. To them, it's just a piece of paper. We authorize the Treasury to borrow $400 billion. The Fed is about to inject $600 billion into the economy.
Here's the question, though. Here's the question I'm getting at. The Fed is supposed to be autonomous. They're supposed to be nonpartisan. They do what it takes to keep prices and employment stable, right?
Well, they claim that they keep prices and employment.
My question is this. Can Congress decide not to raise the debt ceiling?
Yes, of course Congress can. But that would require a sea change in Congress's thinking. Can the Fed decide not to print money? Of course it could, but that would require a sea change in the thinking of the people that are on the Fed. They are all of the same big government mindset. The Constitution be damned. We will do whatever the law allows us to do. We'll worry about paying back our debts in the future.
What happens if Congress says, no mas, we're cutting you off, Fed, we're cutting you off, Obama, that's it, and we exceed the debt ceiling, we owe more than we're allowed to owe?
Well, if the federal government were to default on its loans, the bad thing would be that would be theft to all the good, innocent people that invested in the federal government, and it would violate the Constitution, which says the government can't steal from you. The good thing would be nobody would loan money to the federal government anymore, and they'd have to stay within their budget.
Judge, how smart were these founding fathers that saw this so many years ago that you can't exceed the debt ceiling in default?
They were so smart as to say money has to be coin. It can't be paper, because they knew what could be done with paper money. These coins, silver and gold, which is all they used at the time that the Constitution came into existence, you could put it into a bank and trade paper that represented it, but this always had to be in the bank. Now, it's not in the bank anymore. Well, the dollars that we have are only worth $1 because the government says they're worth $1. The government can decide what they're worth. It can increase the value or decrease the value, and we lose.
And they can decrease the value of the dollar by printing them and therefore pushing up the value of that coin.
Which is why we should go back to a gold standard.
That's a whole nother discussion. We'll do that with you
I think
very
you
soon,
secretly
Mr.
agree
Judge.
with me on that.